Yo, Godson returns back for the new year. According to the Gregorian calendar, those weirdos. I don't look too deep into that, but we're back. We're here. I wanted to touch on movies with hidden messages, how they basically hide the truth in films. And how I came to more of an aware standpoint of this is just awakening. I haven't watched a whole lot of movies since all the nonsense going on this year. That's what they want you to do. But in a way, if you do elevate your third eye, you can see through the fog of what they put out. So I'm starting to get to a point where like I get it, and I'm not bothered by any of the distractions. So I start to hear about this Doctor Sleep movie, and I just realize it's a continuation of The Shining, the old movie with Jack Nicholson. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna take a peek at it because someone was coming at it from a different perspective of saying like this is like kind of what goes on behind the scenes. Now I want to just touch on why they hide it in the movies and why they have to. The laws of the universe don't allow for what people have been doing that have been in control for however long, some say 6,000 years, almost exactly around that. It's not allowed in the unwritten laws of the universe. You can't treat certain people a certain way for so long, destroy their history, and give them little bootleg versions of respectable professions. They're giving you little roles to play like puppets. So they almost have to let these things go. And I want to touch on certain glitches just in general media that we kind of forget. Like recently I posted that random story about that naked boy hanging out of Buckingham Palace and he dropped to his death. And people wanted to make up every story, but why would a naked man risk his life that much to hang out of Buckingham Palace? It was on camera. So those are one of those glitches you're like, did that really just happen? Is that some sort of psyop, or did they just cover up some really sick stuff, right? So I have a few glitches I just remember happening, and some are real recent actually. So Ed Buck, the Democratic contributor, he kept getting caught with dead black men in his home. Now he's a contributor to the Obama campaign, the Hillary Clinton campaign, and other Democratic politicians. He's a donor. He's a a lobbyist. People that they just use back channel ways to launder money in the criminal sense of the criminal terminology of it. So he got caught the first time and they didn't even arrest him. It was so bizarre. The family was complaining. Then the second time they were like, "What the hell is going on?" And they finally arrested him. You can look it up. Ed Buck. Dead black men found in home. You can just search it. And that's part of your third eye open. It's not that mystical. It's just you're willing to search against your will because you want to see the universe for what it is, not as you want it to be. You know what I mean? That's why people end up in these boxes. They're so scared of the truth. So that was one. Then you see the whole Epstein, Weinstein, then later on Maxwell. This is out in the public, right? But people don't even know the Epstein Maxwell chain. I mean, Maxwell's family's known Israeli spies, Mossad agents. You can look into that. I mean, it's almost crazy that it's public knowledge, but you're like, wow, it connects to even other places. It's not like some fake story that can be put out like the media does. And then you got the Weinstein dude, like, he's alive. They say Epstein's dead. They say they arrested this Maxwell chick, but no one's seen any evidence of that. We just take it for what they give us. Meanwhile, there's other people like that Jack Ma Alibaba guy. He's apparently hasn't been seen in months. Why isn't anybody looking into that? Or Tom Hanks. Is he alive, or are they trying to make it seem like he's alive? So all these are little weird glitches. And yeah, like, what if Epstein's alive? What is Weinstein doing to stay safe right now? He's supposedly alive. And then this Maxwell, what's going on? I mean, if they arrest me or you, we get the perp walk. But here's some other ones that are a little further back, but it's like these things happen and they just kind of get swept under the rug. Jared from Subway, him and his little pedophile activities, but he's on TV as this, oh, I lost weight, I just walked the subway and that's how I did it. But then when you peel back the layers, he's a pedophile. And they try to make it seem like it was just women or little girls. It was boys too. And we sweep these things under the rug mentally. It even gets shown, and that's what I mean. They have to show it down to even now. But then you see Kevin Spacey. And it was funny. I had just started watching House of Cards. I wasn't an original watcher of it. And he's doing gay stuff on the show. So fast forward, he gets ousted as this pedo weird predator in Hollywood, and he admits it. He doesn't fight it. He admitted it, and we just keep going along. And I hear Disney in projects now, like we just allow that to. They're trying to normalize that type of stuff. They allow him to come back around. But yeah, that Anthony Weiner politician, he had a laptop with a lot of stuff said to be on it. But we still haven't had access to that. Or that weird Elliot Spitzer guy. Like, these politicians get caught all the time. Even in our community, Marion Barry, like, they set him up, but why would you go along with that? That's part of these little backwater boule tactics to get the black community to just be in confusion while the elites, so to speak, in our community just send confusing messages while they collect money. But they're still just high-paid slaves. If you pay attention, all these little celebrities are getting done off throughout this year and even now. Like, I'm not even gonna say no names because you should be seeing it, but people always just want to RIP with their little fake tributes to strangers. That if you met him, you wouldn't even know if you liked this person. So yeah, these are the Hunter Biden laptop. That's another one. I literally, if you go to gtv.org, you can see the footage because them Asians have their own kind of, let's say, world star hip hop. And they, they're hacking games on another level. So they have his footage on there, and there's Malay Obama's on there, Angelina Jolie's on there. And those are the ones I could make out where I'm like, wow. And there's other ones I can make out too, but I'm not even going to keep name dropping like that. And here's another one, that Jussie Smollett lie. He says he was hung by some white supremacy in the dead of winter in Chicago after he went to Subway at 2 a.m. So like any other normie, whatever at the time, I just take that, I'm like, damn, that's crazy. But I'm like, that's just, I don't know, it just sounded generic. It sounded like some movie shit, some cheap soap opera shit. So then they say, oh, he had a noose on his neck. I was like, hold up, that sounds goofy and that sounds like bull. So you look further into it just with common sense. So you're saying white supremacists in Chicago in the dead of winter poured, what did he say, gasoline on him and put a noose around. It was this clean white noose. And then he kept it on until the police came. It was the most bizarre thing. And then you gotta realize these are actors. Now, he's not that good of an actor. So that was easiest. But I was telling people at the time, and a lot of people that I, followed on even YouTube back then, like, they were saying, that's bull, and then certain people were going so hook line with it, like, man, we have to step up for every black, These are strangers. There's no black diaspora. There's no black monolith where we all have to agree and defend each other. You don't even know these people. You know who signs their checks, though. The same people run all of your little fake heroes platforms, even down to YouTube. And that, it's funny, that's kind of a karmic loop themselves. They have to let some of this go. If you know how to search certain stuff, you can find some deep occult knowledge from both ends. But yeah, just certain entertainers waking up glitch. You know, that's kind of a glitch in itself. Kanye glitches in and out, but he's a puppet. He wouldn't be a billionaire if he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And all this little Kanye divorce thing now, it's like, that's been in the works. But why aren't we looking at the Kardashian family and why are they relevant but they have no talent? But that's a side step. Joe Biden. I mean, if you believe that's Joe Biden, that's cool, but what are these little glitches he's having? He literally said, and you can YouTube this, I'm running the most corrupt campaign in history, down to the more esoteric that everyone saw. Man, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. And then you got, you know, esoteric versus exoteric. Is esoteric's the more hidden, exoteric's for everybody. So even everybody saw that, but they even wanted to ignore that. Or Nancy Pelosi glitching out on news. She was having a conversation about one thing and then she just glitched out and said, "Good morning, everyone. Sunday morning." Yes. And it's like, you look at this person, it looks like a melting figure. It's like, how did they end up running us? How did they end up being in control of us? So back to what they hide in the movies. Oh yeah, back to one story that was recent. The Redskins owner. They literally said he was being suspected of a sex trafficking ring. And you can say YouTube. This was on the radio. And where I haven't heard nothing from Dan Snyder. And they changed the name of that goofy ass Washington football team and y'all run with that? They're running y'all around like little puppets. And it's sad at this point. Like the sports thing, especially with black folk, like you gotta give it up. You have no ownership in it, but you literally will fight over it. People have died over a sports team, gone to jail over a sports team, falling out with friends, family for over sports games. I was kind of in that mode, but I would be mad and it would be petty attitudes, but it goes further with the lower vibrational people. It can get down to murder. So let's just run through some movies. I don't want to go through too deep, but I want some people to just watch these films and look at it from a more open perspective and compare it to now. So we'll start with the obvious, The Matrix. The movie from which so many terms derive from: the rabbit hole, the red pill, blue pill, the Matrix term in itself, because whether you want to believe it or not, like, we're not obviously probably in some tubes and some other consciousness. And if we are, damn, you got that over on me. But they've created a world to where you can't create your own without huge resistance. And honestly, I don't know if there's anywhere you can literally just do what you want, and not in no evil way. Just be free from all the odd taxes and the cost of living adjustments and the fake currency and all the debt slips, aka money they have out there. Because when you look into their books, their CIAs, their banking systems, they're even their politics, it's all the corruption's right there. It's not even corruption at this point. It's like they're a mob and we're just the peasants, or we're just the civilians. Some of us know, but I think enough of us know that it's starting to flip. But anyhow, they have to let it go because karmically they know what can happen if they just keep doing these things in real life and not trying to say like, this is what we're doing. because they're playing with old, ancient mysteries that they can't even deal with. Because oddly enough, it's all one race controlling us, but in the reality, the melanated beings of the past were the ones with the true technology, the true wisdom, the true understandings of the universe. And you can go deeper in that, and I will another times. But yeah, the Matrix, that's an obvious one. And you just break down through that film how we all are trapped in loops, kind of like Westworld, that HBO show, which is another one. They're trying to tell you something. We're in loops. They're trying to track you with data. In that show, you go to the park and they track your behavior. In this form, they got the phone, they got the ring on your doorbell, now they're about to give us tracking IDs just for our driver's licenses, the real IDs, your credit card with the chips. We're already tracked. That's why when you look in your phone, it knows your work route, it knows how to get you home. When you park somewhere in the city, it knows where you park and all that. And you know, it's convenient, but you're also like, damn, they can track you like that. Even when I got a new phone, they literally just transferred everything, even down to the settings, over to the new one. It was like, wow. So that's, the Matrix is the obvious one, and you can deep dive into all the stuff about that. But I'm gonna rewatch it more recently, but the most recent film I watched was Dr. Sleep. Now, I didn't know what to expect because The Shining's pretty straightforward. It's basically, in the layman's terms, looking at it, it was a haunted house film about the house that was basically tormenting this family, and mostly the father, Jack Nicholson's character. And at the end, you know, we all know the famous "Here's Johnny" and how he went crazy. And so the Dr. Sleep is about the son in the film. And little did I know, because that's an old film, and I saw it young, and then I kind of would peep into it as a little bit older, when I got a little bit older, but didn't look in it too deep. I didn't look into it too deep. But basically, his son was like a clairvoyant, a whatever you want to call it, a psychic, a telepath, but they look at it more as light. As you get older, as you eat the GMO food, as you do the drugs, alcohol, the random violence, you dim your light. They say we all have these types of imaginations as a kid. That's why sick people like to feed off that energy. And that's literally what Dr. Sleep's about. He's growing up, he's traumatic, he's causing trauma in his life purposely to dim his light, because he's a strong one. He can hear thoughts, he can talk to people and without saying anything, telepathy. And great film. I don't want to go too deep into it, but basically he gets snapped out of it by this young girl who, ironically, the only black girl in the film. She was only half black, but she was the strongest of these, let's say, light bearers. And then there was this sick group of people called the True Knot in the film, who would feed off these energies of young children. Some of them sense energies. There's one boy that scene is terrible. You know, you just gotta watch it. It's a film. But there's a young boy, he's a baseball player, and he can kind of tell what the pitch call is gonna be, because he's reading their mind, obviously. Or in the beginning of the film, there's a young girl. I don't know what her talent was or whatever you want to call it, but she kind of sensed some energy in the woods, and that's where this evil lady, the main character, I think her name was Rose, and they start the film off pretty dirty. And that film was pretty straightforward, and the little black girl in the film, they show her grow up, and she's the most powerful one. She can literally operate on the fourth, fifth. And what I consider the fifth is when you're in thought or in a dream, but you can control it. And then, this is just my interpretation. If someone wants to say I'm wrong, that's fine. And then if you're in the sixth, that means you can control it and manifest down to the third. or fourth or fifth, you know what I mean? And that's where I think she was, where she's, I think, 11 in the film, and it gets really crazy to where the leader of that crew is like very powerful. She can track you from another state, but they they hold the energies of these children in canisters. It's sick. But peep that movie, Dr. Sleep, and look at it from a perspective of what those people can be in real terms. Could that be a cannibal? Could that be a pedophile? Could that be one of these SRA, satanic ritual abusers? That's a real thing. You can look that up. These people that feed off of children's energies because it's purest at that point. We all remember when we're kids, we just have the purest thoughts. We have imaginations through the roof to where we can project imaginary friends. How many of us had imaginary little friends? Not maybe all, but that's what I'm saying. Some of us are born where we never had a light. But yeah, let's go on to another one. V for Vendetta. We all know that one, the guy that wears the Guy Fawkes mask. Type of revolutionary figure, good or bad, doesn't matter. And then in the film, it's basically playing out what's going on now. A lie about a virus created control to where everything was centralized. The media, the banking, the entertainment, the law enforcement, everything was centralized. The president, or whatever they would call him, chancellor or whatever, was a centralized figure, and he would tap in the TV screens or big monitors all over the city. That's the type of control they want out of fear. 9/11. What type of ritual was that? It's easy. You put something so crazy and so physical to where you saw it happen. No matter how it happened, you saw the end result of a building being collapsed. And then right after that, you have Fahrenheit 9/11 come out, and they were telling you what it was then, that there was no way it could have went down how it went down. And even the most non-aware person knows that was a fishy deal. But what did that bring in? The Patriot Act and all the people being able to look into your everything. And that's a double-edged sword in a way of, if you're just a pure person, who cares? It's a little bit spooky when you realize they can track you wherever, but it's like, as long as you ain't doing nothing, it's not a big deal. But when it starts to be, when they want to control everything and start to say, you have to take this vaccine, or you have to take this, or you have to do this to travel, you have to do this to work at this place, that's when we're getting into communism. Almost in a way of putting it nicely, it's like communism is just a nice way of saying slavery. Like, you have to do this way. Because when you work somewhere and you earn funds, you pay those taxes back to those same people. The Crown, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. Ask some of them if they would even talk about how their country is, how they're having floods, how they're having food shortages, how they have real issues. It's just they're not allowed to speak out about it. Like the Jack Ma dude, why they say he was missing, or one of the theories is he did speak out against the Communist Party of China, which runs everything. Because it's not when you say, even when Trump says China, China, he's not talking about the people. Some of the people are clearly with the agenda of the Communist Party of China. Because people don't realize the CCP, they literally put communist in the title. So they're not hiding it, right? But V for Vendetta, you watch the film. I'm not gonna go into far detail because these are old films. Some of us have already seen them. You just maybe didn't think too deep into it. But the main character was a rebel. He was kind of a red-pilled guy that found out through him being part of the experiments what the agenda is, and he slowly started to get revenge, and then he woke up Natalie Portman's character through a process. And it's sad because you want to think you can wake everybody up, but if you are going to try, you have to slowly do it, or you can bust their brain to where they think you're the enemy, and then mentally they become your enemy. Meanwhile, they're struggling. Even if things seem good on the surface, they're struggling with their thoughts because they're not in tune. 12 Monkeys. Now, me and my girl recently watched this. I was trying to, even like the few times I saw it, maybe a few years ago, I was like, man, this movie's crazy. Like, you pick something up new every time you watch it. And when you watch it now, the viral outbreak part of the film, and I'll just cut to that part, it's like they're showing from the beginning what can happen when an idea is just placed, because the time travel they're playing with, you have that butterfly effect where Bruce, if you pay attention, Brad Pitt's character in the film it seems like he's crazy because he's in this madhouse, but he's saying a bunch of really factual, logical stuff. He's just rattling it off, because when you start to learn some of this stuff, I could rattle on for days on all this stuff. And I'm still early on in a lot of my stuff. So he's in the madhouse. He's even breaking down how, like, they want to sell sanitizers and soaps, so they make up a germ myth. Because if you think about germs and like vitamin B12 is a synthetic false version of stuff you get from dirt, the dirt from plants you would eat, vegetables you would eat. So it's a natural element, just like melanin, they have the melatonin. That's not real. So yeah, they definitely hide these possible outcomes in the films. And again, in 12 Monkeys, they're wearing masks. They're scared of the virus that eventually outbreaks in the future. But yeah, Bruce Willis's character keeps traveling back because they think he's a good tracker, they say. But really all it is he can kind of remember his childhood before all this happened. But little do you know, it's because he traveled back and saw himself. He just didn't know it was himself. And down to Brad Pitt's character becoming this terrorist, he really was, the ideas were planted by the future Bruce Willis traveling in the past, but they drugged him up. So he was just mumbling stuff to Brad Pitt's character. He just didn't know he was doing it because he was sedated. But Brad Pitt took that in, because he was already kind of aware, but they made him seem crazy, and he took that to another level. But he was a rich, spoiled kid. He was faking. But the real villain, if you pay attention at the end on the airplane, that was the real villain. He took, oh, you guys wanted to fake a revolution. I'll really kill people. And the whole film is trying to track who really did it. And at the end of the film, the old lady that's been sending Bruce Willis back in time ends up in the seat next to him. And it's a deep movie. You have to decode it, though. We'll talk about Get Out. This one is multi-layer. On the surface, you just think, oh, black guys date white girls, be careful going to their parents and all that. And there's something to some of that, because certain white parents are very strange, and then some of them, work for the government or whoever else, and they don't tell nothing. But it's not like they're trying to experiment on you, let alone would any man like me let that happen. But the film touches on how you can fall into their culture and get rocked to sleep and not realize what their agenda is. The end result of what's my man's name? The guy from ATL, very charismatic actor guy. His end result in that film is basically what a boule, shuck and jive distraction dude that gets paid off. You end up a super Europeanized version of yourself. Not only that, you're going along with the agenda, and anyone that looks up to you, you just turn them down back to nonsense. You don't give them any elevation. And you yourself might not even have that as one of these mindless puppets. So that depicts on how they want to study you. They admire your history, the melanin in your skin, the way your hair actually benefits you. Because as a young kid, you get insecure about your hair being nappy or kinky, but this conducts electricity. Honestly, any other thinner hair is dangerous. It's dead hair. That's why it falls out so much easier. If you look at, most white people's combs, and this is no offense, this is just facts, or even down to how they try to call us monkeys. But if you look at the lips of a monkey, or like in the Planet of the Apes, look at the lips on those, and then look at the hair on a monkey or a dog. Not even calling y'all monkeys or dogs, it's just you have the same hair. This actually is good. If I would have just had this hairstyle back when I was younger, I wouldn't have had to touch it. Because my hair does kind of just stall out. But I'd much rather have this than try and shave my head every day and then try and wave it down. Like Malcolm X, didn't he show y'all in the film, The Caulk, how you're going through pain to try and be that version of someone else's version that they want to keep you docile, to keep you not questioning things. And I think that's the deeper message of Get Out. Like the one blind guy, he wanted his sight. He didn't want his actual eyes. He wanted his third eye. He wanted his insight. The way he was a photographer, he would take certain pictures. Just like a lot of friends of mine that I know, they take pictures for a living on the side of their old job or their other jobs. And it's like, there's a reason why we're decent at that, even just naturally. But they touch on also in Get Out mind control and how they can use frequency, energies, and vibration, that little T shape. You can attach trauma to that and you can disassociate to where you act like a different person or you go to sleep. That's dangerous stuff to play with if you learn it, but that's what they're trying to tell you. That's how he was able to do it. Now they used the sound frequency, so he was able to pick out the cotton out the chair. See, he was thinking with his third eye. He was thinking like, damn, this shit's crazy. If you're just some weak sleep person, you just give up. You don't try and get back out. Like the dude in Get Out is Kanye. He's trying, but he's still in that weird fashion world thinking that he's a slave to fashion. He thinks that matters. Like, you can buy clothes and, I got nice shit, but we're all bots in a sense, but don't sell your soul to it. Literally, like, everything you talk about is that, to where now you got little kids out here with the bus pass, but they got the Gucci belt, to where they'll tuck in a hoodie just so you can see the belt. Then the pants is sagging, and then you know what that is, that gay ass jail culture shit put on you from emulizing the Indian thuggy secret society who were thieves and murderers. And then they put that on you in Americas as thugs. Only certain people fought it, like I'll say, like the Haitians fought it. They see how they speak a mumbled version of French. They didn't want to speak it, but it was being forced on them. Just like the Jamaicans, they wanted them to speak a British tongue, but it ended up in patois, which is the French term. See how these things, you're speaking broken English in a terminology by the French. Down to in the Americas where we were already here, obviously. The Gullah Geechees, they speak that Geechee still to this day because they didn't want to fall in with the Englishman's term. And it's sad because we don't know what the language fully was before. And maybe some people do. You have to be tied into a family that knows their grandmother, the great-grandmother, the great-grandmother, the great-great-grandmother, and tie these things together. a lot of families get broken apart. And I think that's a lot of the agenda. That's why they want the gay people, they want the trans people, because no matter what you feel about that, that kills off the family line. If you turn your son gay, like, or to a woman like Dwayne Wade, he's not gonna have any children. It's just common sense. Just like a woman to lesbians are not gonna have a children. You can adopt, but that's not the same thing. That's a faulty passing on of your blood, but there's no blood involved. Just like with the gay part, like, so it's not the safest thing to have two males that are gay raise a, say two white gay males raise a young black boy. Because here's the thing, I'm not trying to be against any community, but y'all's whole basis for your lifestyle is based on sex. All you want to do is be able to sleep with your same sex. It's not always about some loving your same sex. Because you look into their community, it's a tough way to live, you know? You can die from ingesting your own feces. So imagine, not to get too graphic, playing around in someone else's. You dig? So literally you dig, like, that's not the safest lifestyle to go through. You don't want to pass that along to a young, impressionable light that could be shining brightly if you just let them shine. But I just think, let me touch on something really funny with the gay community. Someone touched on, I don't know who it was, I can't track them down. It might have been a natural thought of mine, but why does the Butch Dyke look like the average street dude? They have the same literal clothing, attitude. They like the same women, like, and then other cultures take on that madness. It's like, I'm not bombing on anybody. I'm just saying, let's look at what's really going on, and the agenda's pushed. So, Get Out is another one you should look deeper into, but you know, not to say watch the movie over and over again, but get that they hide this obvious messages in plain sight, or how they'll snatch you up, like Dr. Sleep, or like Get Out, or like Hostel, how they'll snatch you up in other countries and sell you off in America. Had to switch phones because I just realized shooting these films or shooting these, you're gonna have to have some memory, so I'm gonna have to use my other phone for a little bit. But back to what I was saying about Hostel, how they'll snatch you up in other countries and Americans are the highest value target. So it's, that one's straightforward. If you watch Hostel 1 and 2, those are the two I saw. I think there's other ones, but man, and they're highly connected because here we are living a normal life. We think, oh, everything's all good. You know, there's some child abusers here and there, but it's not a large thing. There's some pedophiles here and there. We all have that one uncle or two that are weird or whatever in whatever regard. But we don't realize some people are really into that. Those fake Roman elite types, they like that, even in their own fake history. Because it is fake. If you believe they were all shiny armor, eating grapes in paradise, but then they could barely survive over here, then you're believing in madness. They needed to be taught how to clothe themselves, maintain their hygiene, properly eat, properly decipher which things you can eat, because some things will kill you if you eat them. Probably what's happening. They carried all these diseases with them because they didn't maintain themselves. Imagine if now you just didn't maintain yourself. You're going to start to get rashes and diseases and all sorts of stuff naturally that isn't that mystical. It's just, you dirty. So they bring it over and we act it out. But they play it out in the films and they let you know what they're doing. Even down to what a vampire is. How many things in history or people in history are like a vampire? Wasn't Jeffrey Dahmer snatching people up at night and then eating them later? You know, and you can go, you can find a bunch of those weirdos, you know, like people like flesh. Those spirit cooking events that Abramovic, whatever her weird ass name is, I don't care. She has spirit cooking events where you'll see Jay-Z, Beyonce, Will Ferrell, Lady Gaga, eating human looking food. Would you go to that? Because if you go to that, let's just say you'd go to that. People are part of societies you wouldn't even know. Those people that dip off, they come back different. They probably joined up with something. But back to, yeah, I want to stay focused because I don't want to go on too long. But Us, the second Jordan Peele movie, Us. Now, recently I've came across some of these younger people on YouTube that they believe a lot of people are playing double and triple roles. And at first I'm laughing at it too, but I'm like, didn't everyone say Gucci Mane was a clone when he got out? Doesn't anybody that really works out realize in the feds, it would be even harder to lose a gut like Gucci got. He got the gut to where he's sitting down and has to accommodate for it. He could put a plate on the joint type shit. To lose that and the other weight is crazy. To have facial hair when he never had facial hair. To change his cadence. To change his height even. If you look at some of the pictures of him, Gucci was about 6'2" or so. He was a big dude. I don't know who they got now. This ripped up guy with facial hair, a different mouth structure, tattoos of different places, and he's a different dude. Now, not that this can't happen, but why wouldn't his mom be allowed at his wedding? I mean, if they have some sort of beef, then I can understand that, but it's kind of strange. So you get to Us, and the movie's kind of weird, but basically it alludes to how you can be replaced by another version of yourself. Now, in that movie, they try and mystify and saying it's the exact you, and you got replaced by a carbon copy of you, exact version of you. But in the reality, you just got people that can play a double role. One might die, and then one moves on. If you look into what the Mandela effect is, a lot of people allege that Mandela died in jail. But then you see a guy get out that's a total opposite of what he was. Even his own wife, Winnie, was like, who is this man? In so many words. And then they emasculated him, made him president, and he somehow got into all this power structure after 27 years in jail. It's just think about what it is. And he didn't push no powerful message. He was just a docile old dude. No disrespect to people that hold him in some sort of high regard, but these are puppets. They're given the spotlight. Martin Luther King Jr.'s real name is Michael King Jr. And after they killed him, his family won a civil suit because they knew what the backdoor deals was. They just didn't know how deep it was. They didn't know they were going to kill him. And they exposed that police shot Martin Luther King. And that's one version. So we got to realize not only do they hide in the movies, they hide it in these culture figures they put out there, that there's a deeper meaning behind it. Martin Luther is like a Protestant Catholic, Roman Catholic, some sort of leader. Like, why would you name yourself after that and you were born Michael King Jr.? Just look into that. Superman. Now, I'm not going to deep dive, but powered by the sun, he flies in the sun to regenerate. The only problem is he's a white dude. There's no way something that... Because melanin's condensed sun. So if you have least amount of melanin of the races on this planet, how would you be able to fly in the sun? And they say you're from another planet. Prove it. But you can fly into the sun, but there's a type of people that do get powered by the sun the most. And we covered that in the colonization of melanin. Like, you just look deeper into what melanin is, and you'll see there's certain roadblocks. Certain scientific pseudoscientists don't even talk about it. Where does Neil deGrasse Tyson's weird ass talk about melanin in a real context, if at all? I don't know if he has. Apocalypto. Not to say that every being on this landmass, the Americas, was some like dark blue, black, or even my complexion. There was probably lighter skinned versions of what you would call Mayans and Aztecs. But little do you know, they looked up to the Olmecs from supposedly Africa, but the pseudo-historians try and say they're Polynesians. It's a joke what they try and do. They want to stop at every turn and not give us any props for our history. So Superman is just, or Apocalypto is just touches on, really the film is great, but at the end you see the colonizers coming over looking like they're struggling. They barely made it over, but they're about to be into some evil practices. But think about how in the film he knew the land. How could we believe everyone, they came over here, dominated everything that was here, then had to go all the way back to Africa and dominate their people, which isn't true. The Ashanti tribe and others just sold off their own people. What happened was they came here and tried, but it wasn't that easy. So they brought back some, and then they colonized them, and then the Ashantis and other collaborated with them, and they sold, those were the Africans from over there. It wasn't all of us. There's no way. And then even down to the Civil War, we freed ourselves, the Gullah Geechee Wars. Civil War was just to write the rules afterwards. But that's a history lesson, and I might have messed up one part of that, but it doesn't matter, because you can dig into that, and it's very easy to figure out. Once you have to look through the BS, the teachings that are forced. You have to look through the pseudo-science, the pseudo-history, the pseudo-everything. So, The Mist. That's a scary one. It's a horror film in a way, but it's basically touching on how the military is so desperate to go to these other dimensions because they can't get to those higher points, those people in charge. So the whole film is about these monsters that are coming out of the mist that all of a sudden hits this town. And people don't gain an understanding of it until these military people come in and they're scared and they're whispering. And apparently there's a military base they're experimenting with opening up dimensions. Like the CERN people. If you look up CERN, they're trying to create the God particle. But whatever they put out isn't what it is. Sometimes they let it slip all the way, like when Bill Gates says he's trying to depopulate the planet. But a lot of times it's more hidden. So with CERN, they're trying to tell you these big tubes of all this technology are just to work on some sort of particle. They're trying to open up gates. They probably don't know what they're doing. All they're doing is letting in energies they don't understand. And if they do understand it, they're using it for like nefarious, evil purposes, nothing good. And that's back to the laws of the universe. They can't allow it. If you watch Stranger Things, that's another one. They're literally telling you what they're doing to try and open up other dimensions. Now, I want to get to a small part where characters like Achilles from Troy, Caesar of Borgia, Alexander the Great, and then you go with just Jesus and other figures in history. They all have the same story. The Immaculate Conception, the demigod background. I don't know if they're trying to tell you much more than that these are fake figures. If you really pay attention, why are they all the same? Why is there so little factual evidence to support their existence besides colonized books that get written in their tongue, in their language? Another movie, Dreamcatcher. That one's a good one. I haven't watched it in a while, but they touch on a lot of stuff. But then they throw in the alien false flag with the Mr. Gray and all that part of it. But the Dreamcatcher part is pretty straightforward. You're in the fourth dimension. You're in your dreams. He had a locker, just like in Dr. Sleep. They had libraries where that held their memories. Because those types of people can literally pick from the past with pinpoint accuracy. And what you would call like a photographic memory. I definitely have that. So Dreamcatcher, they put a lot of plot around the fact that these people, this group of friends, all got these abilities from this quote unquote alien, and they manifested in different ways. One was like a tracker. One could see through thoughts. The other one, I think he could sense certain energies, and they could all kind of connect and talk to each other. So that touches on that a little bit. I wrote down Total Recall, and I didn't really do too deep of a thought into it, but basically that's an outcome that can happen when they start to ration your lifestyle to a way to where you're so controlled, you want a virtual reality to escape to. It's kind of towards what I'm saying now is that virtual reality is more of the reality than the reality they've placed for you. Go to school, go to work, get married, retire, 401k, like they got everyone on the same program. You can do your own variations of it, or you can be a person that just doesn't play the game and play that card. But Total Recall is like he kind of realizes he was really this rebel, but then it's a lot of false flags. Was your wife really your wife? Who was this rebel chick? Was she placed here for you? Blah, 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 blah. So that movie digs into a little bit of the truth too. And then I want to just finish with one I haven't seen, Souls, but I saw the trailer. And you can just pretty much watch a trailer and gather they're trying to tell you what it is in the next life if you're good, if you're right with yourself. And that was just, I want to actually watch that. I don't really normally watch those types of cartoon films, but I did watch The Incredibles 1 and 2, and a while before that I watched WALL-E. And WALL-E's just this weird film. He's an older piece of technology. He gets left on this garbage planet, but he gets back. But the main thing I took from that film was the humans from WALL-E. They're debilitated in these chairs where they can order everything, and there's a screen that pops up in front of them, and they're just morbidly obese, ordering food, and they're completely programmed. Everything they know is just given to them. And even with the information out there now, it's a double-edged sword. You can find some good stuff, and then when you start to get deeper, you'll find a lot of propaganda, false flags. That's why I never say believe what I'm telling you. You have to look into it. Even to where I look, they tell you the same thing. And then there's things I'm like, yo, this doesn't match up with this. Back to those kids that would say, like, Gucci Mane probably really is replaced. He was too wild to be whatever he is now. But then some others, they're just they're just jumping off a ledge with it. Because that's all they're looking into. They're not trying to elevate themselves. Some of them are so young, they can't know themselves. They haven't been through it enough. But yeah, that was my little take on they hide it in the films in plain sight and why they do it. They have to. It's for their karma. They know what they're doing is wrong behind the scenes. And that's it. Peace.